on a cold Tuesday morning at 6:15. The sharp metallic crunch of bolt cutters snapping through my father's brass padlock echoed across the quiet gravel driveway of my ranch. Standing beside my custom iron gate was Officer Kevin Vance, wearing a polished city police uniform and a leather duty belt. Behind him stood his older sister, Brenda Vance, president of the Pine Creek Estates Homeowners Association, holding a yellow legal pad and smiling with cold, triumphant arrogance. "I'm giving you 10 seconds. Why, Jack?" Officer Vance barked, unbuckling his steel handcuffs and resting his right hand heavy on the grip of his holstered sidearm. "Hand over the master keys to this ranch gate right now, or I'm placing you under arrest for criminal obstruction and impounding your truck." I didn't yell. I didn't reach for the gate. I stood on my driveway holding a ceramic coffee mug, taking slow, deliberate steps in my leather boots. "Officer Vance," I said softly, "you're standing on tax parcel 402, private land recorded under my family's warranty deed in 1976. You have no warrant, no court order, and no jurisdiction." Instead of backing down, Officer Vance stepped directly across my property line, grabbed my left forearm with a heavy grip, and snapped a cold steel handcuff ring around my wrist. "Cut the chain. Line, Jim," Brenda ordered the worker, her voice dripping with venom. "He's going to jail, and this causeway belongs to the community starting today." I looked at the cold steel cuff on my wrist, looked at Officer Vance's badge, and took a quiet sip of coffee. "You're making the biggest miscalculation of your life, officer," rattling on, I whispered. Before the second cuff clicked shut, he let me back up. To understand how an overbearing HOA president and her cop brother walked directly into a $500,000 legal landmine, you have to understand how this land was carved out. To understand why a retired FBI agent didn't lose his temper, you have to understand how this land was carved out. My name is Jack Crawford. For 3 decades, my job was investigating corrupt officials who thought their badges gave them an exemption. When I retired from active federal service at 58, I moved back to Silver Creek Ranch, 350 acres of timber, pasture, and Deepwater Creek frontage that my father, Thomas Crawford, purchased in 1976. Back then, there were no paved roads, no street lights, and no HOA handbooks. It was pure, untouched Oregon timber, with ancient Douglas fir, red cedar, and clear spring water feeding into Cedar Lake. My father spent 4 summers clearing the road, operating a bulldozer bought at auction. We hauled 400 yards of crushed granite to build an elevated causeway connecting our parcel to the highway. At the entrance, he hung a custom 22-foot iron gate, locking it with a 5-pound brass master lock. "Line, Jack," my father told me. "A man's boundary isn't built on neighborhood gossip. As long as your deed is clean and your posts are plumb, nobody can step across without permission." When my father passed away, Silver Creek Ranch passed to me. I kept the causeway graded, timber thinned, and my truck parked near the cabin. I kept my credentials as a senior consultant for the Dodge Public Corruption Task Force, keeping an encrypted terminal in my office. In 1999, Crestview Heights developers bought 300 adjacent acres to build Pine Creek Estates, 140 homes. The developer needed secondary emergency fire access across my causeway to get his plat approved. My father granted an emergency access license for fire trucks only, insisting on a protective covenant. Recorded in Book 99, Page 314. The covenant contained an explicit reservation clause. It stipulated that Silver Creek Ranch was an independent estate completely excluded from HOA covenants. Furthermore, if the HOA claimed ownership over parcel 402, 3 automatic legal triggers occurred. Fire access was revoked. The $500,000 indemnity bond was triggered for cash clawback against HOA reserves, and their communal dock was condemned. For 24 years, that agreement sat undisturbed in my fireproof box. Brenda Vance moved into Lot 1 and managed Pine Creek Estates with an iron fist. She turned the monthly newsletter into a compliance bulletin filled with warnings. Homeowners received violation notices for wrong paint shades, coiled garden hoses, or street parking past 8 p.m. Pine Creek had a shallow, muddy dock, while my causeway opened into deep water with a concrete boat launch. In August, Brenda issued Rule 9B, declaring private gates near boundaries an obstruction, imposing a $500 daily fine and authorizing physical removal. When Rule 9B arrived, I didn't yell. My years in federal law enforcement taught me that if an argument is not filed on paper, it does not exist. On Monday, a certified letter arrived from law firm Sterling Associates. A line signed by Harold Blake. It claimed parcel 402 was subject to an implied prescriptive easement, demanding gate removal, $2,500 in fines, and boathouse keys. I wrote a 2-page response citing Book 76, page 118 and Book 99, page 314, attaching certified survey photocopies. I warned that parcel 402 was independent, and interference would constitute criminal trespass and breach of the 1999 agreement. Instead of checking records, Brenda brought her brother, Officer Kevin Vance, which brings us back to Tuesday morning at 6:15, with bolt cutters snapping my 5-pound brass padlock. I walked slowly down the gravel driveway, taking calm steps in my leather work boots, stopping 10 feet from the gate where Brenda stood, holding her yellow legal pad beside Officer Kevin Vance and a hired maintenance worker named Jim, holding 36-inch heavy-duty bolt cutters. "Morning, Brenda," I said calmly. "Morning, Officer Vance. Mind telling me why you're cutting steel on private land?" Brenda turned, adjusting her designer sunglasses. "Jack Ranch," she said, using her smooth meeting tone. "We gave you notice. Under Rule 9B, water access corridors adjoining community boundaries are classified as shared recreational infrastructure. The board voted on Friday to integrate this gate into our digital perimeter access system. The primary access code is 4920. "Brenda," I said, taking a quiet sip of coffee, "this causeway is part of parcel 402, 350 acres of unencumbered private land recorded under my family's name in 1976. Pine Creek Estates doesn't own this gate, doesn't maintain this causeway, and has zero legal authority over this water. You signed the subdivision agreement in 1999. Juan Jack," Brenda insisted, holding out her legal pad. "Our legal counsel confirmed Section 12 granted a blanket water easement to the entire community. Check page 14 of that 1999 agreement. Brenda," I said softly. "Book 99. Page 314 recorded a $500,000 legal trap. And by snapping that padlock 3 minutes ago, you just sprung the trigger." Brenda scoffed, tapping her silver pen against her clipboard. "Officer Vance, issue the non-compliance citation and confiscate his gate keys." Officer Kevin Vance stepped forward, pulling his cuffs from his belt and resting his hand heavy on his holstered firearm. I'm giving you one final order. Jack. Hand over the master keys to this ranch gate right now, or I'm placing you under arrest for criminal obstruction of community infrastructure. Officer Vance. Auburn, I warned, turning to the worker and the officer. The Oregon Revised Statutes Section 164.345 defines criminal mischief as intentionally damaging private property. You just instructed a contractor to destroy my lock on private land. Wand Jim. I suggest you check your commercial liability insurance before you leave this driveway. Because if one single HOA resident drives a vehicle or launches a boat across this causeway, your company will be named as a primary co-defendant in an intentional trespass, property conversion, and cloud-on title lawsuit. Jim, the maintenance worker, he looked at the broken padlock on the ground. He looked at my calm expression and stepped back toward his van. Mrs. Vance. Ron, Jim said, his voice dropping. My contract was for lock installation on designated HOA common grounds. If this causeway is an unencumbered private parcel, my company can't be involved in a boundary dispute. Jim, get in your van and drive away, Brenda demanded, her voice raising an octave. You were hired under a valid commercial work order. Jim didn't argue. He climbed into his utility van. He started the engine and backed out down the gravel road toward the highway, leaving Brenda and Officer Vance standing alone beside my iron gate. Officer Vance reached for my arm. You think you can threaten a police officer? I stepped back, holding up my phone in recording mode. Officer Vance, I stated with clear, clinical authority. You are operating without a warrant, without an official dispatch log, without jurisdiction on private land. Under Title 18, United States Code, Section 242. Using your police authority under color of law to deprive a citizen of constitutional property rights is a federal felony punishable by up to 10 years in federal prison. Every word you say and every step you take on this causeway is being transmitted live to an encrypted federal server. Officer Vance froze. His eyes darted from my glowing phone screen to his patrol car Unit 204 parked illegally on my driveway. He knew the camera fundamentally changed the dynamic of power. He was no longer bullying a quiet rural resident. He was creating a permanent digital footprint of official misconduct and color of law violations. We'll see how smart you are when our attorney files an emergency injunction in circuit court. Officer Vance barked, backing away toward his cruiser. They climbed into the patrol car and drove away down the gravel road. I watched their patrol car speed away. Let me ask you guys a quick question. If an arrogant cop showed up at your house enforcing fake HOA rules, what would you have done in my shoes? Tell me in the comments, because I needed to make my next move very carefully. But within 48 hours, the process server handed me a formal notice of intent to record statutory lien claiming Parcel 402 owed $14,200 in Rule 9b fines, keypad deployment fees, and legal costs. On Tuesday, I drove my 1978 Ford F-250 to the Clackamas County Courthouse in Oregon City. At the recorder's office, staff knew me from my years in public service. Behind the public records counter was Senior Clerk Helen Vance, no relation to Brenda. Morning, Jack, Helen said, smiling warmly. What brings you down from Cedar Lake today? Morning, Lee, Helen, said, placing my 1976 warranty deed on the counter. I need certified, gold embossed vault copies of 3 specific files. Tax Parcel 402 warranty deed, the 1999 Pine Creek Estates Master Declaration, and the 1999 Municipal Indemnity Bond Agreement Helen retrieved the certified vault files. I sat down and conducted a page-by-page audit. 1976 Deed Book 76, page 118. Parcel 402 was an unencumbered fee-simple estate. 1999 Master Declaration Book 99, page 314. Exempted parcel 402 from all HOA rules. 1999 Municipal Indemnity Bond 9908412. Deposited a $500,000 letter of credit. Section 6 stated any HOA attempt to encumber parcel 402 triggered an immediate $500,000 cash forfeiture to the county. Then, I asked Helen to check the recorded amendment registry for Pine Creek Estates. Helen typed on her terminal and paused. Jack, she said slowly, there is no recorded amendment for Rule 9B in our registry. Under ORS 94-590. While covenant amendments altering property rights must be approved by 75% of lot owners and recorded with the county clerk. Rule 9B was never recorded with the county. It does not exist in public land records. Discovering that Rule 9 was legally fictitious was a major breakthrough. But it raised a deeper question. Why was Brenda Vance pushing so hard? In my experience, when people in authority act irrationally, it is rarely about aesthetics. It is almost always about money. I sat back down at the courthouse computer terminal and opened the Oregon Secretary of State Corporate Registry portal. I searched for Pine Creek Estates HOA. When Helen pulled the corporate detail page, we uncovered a shocking financial secret. In November 2021, Brenda created Crestline Infrastructure LC, transferring $22,000 in HOA funds to her private company. She wanted access to my boat ramp so her private company could launch commercial boats and charge residents $350 a month for private lake tours. I paid Helen for certified copies of every single document, placed them into my vinyl master binder, and walked out of the courthouse. On Wednesday, I drove to Lot 34, home of Arthur Pendleton, retired as forensic auditor and former HOA treasurer. We sat in Arthur's study with 2 mugs of black coffee. I laid out the certified corporate filings for Crestline Infrastructure LC and the 1999 Municipal Indemnity Bond. Arthur pulled off his reading glasses and shook his head in moral indignation. Why, Jack, Arthur revealed. When I resigned as treasurer last March, I told the neighborhood it was for personal reasons. The truth is, Brenda took total control of our operating bank accounts in late 2021. In October 2021, Brenda transferred operating accounts to Portland, removing my name as signatory. Arthur opened a filing cabinet and pulled out a blue ledger book. Look at these entries, Arthur pointed out. Every time a resident paid a lake dock fee or a parking penalty, the funds were routed into an account labeled Special Utility Escrow, an account controlled exclusively by Brenda Vance. Did the board ever vote on Rule 9B or the legal assessment? I asked. Why, never, Arthur declared firmly. Brenda drafted Rule 9 on her home laptop. We emailed it to the board without calling a meeting, imprinted it in the handbook. 2 board members explicitly objected in writing, but she ignored them and claimed unanimous approval. Will you sign a sworn affidavit confirming that for court? I asked. Arthur looked at the Secretary of State filings showing Brenda's secret commercial kickbacks. It was jaw-tightening. Jack, Arthur said, I spent 35 years auditing federal tax fraud. I will not let a corporate bully use fake board votes and illegal kickbacks to steal from my neighbors and harass an honest man on his own land. I'll sign whatever affidavit your attorney needs. Before leaving, I also contacted Agent Reed at the FBI Portland Field Office and State Police Internal Affairs regarding Officer Vance's unauthorized patrol car deployment and attempt to seize property under color of law on federal task force property. By Wednesday evening, I sat at my dining table surrounded by certified records, corporate filings, and Arthur's affidavit. I had built an unassailable paper trail. And, tomorrow night, Brenda Vance and her brother were going to face the complete truth. By Wednesday evening, Brenda launched her final counterattack against the neighborhood. Homeowners received an emergency email alert titled Critical Community Security Alert. The notice claimed I was illegally blocking water access and forcing emergency expenditures. Brenda scheduled a special meeting for Thursday evening to vote on a $750 legal assessment per household, $105,000 total, to sue parcel 402. On Thursday morning, neighbor Dale Miller drove to my fence line. Jack, Dale asked, "Is this gate really worth forcing families to pay $750 in legal fees?" Dale, I asked, "Did Brenda Vance show you the 1999 deed covenant before asking for $750? Come to the clubhouse tonight. Read the certified records I project. You won't owe $750. In Pine Creek, we'll have a new president." I spent Thursday afternoon organizing my master evidence file into a black vinyl binder. Section A, Title Jurisdiction. 1976 Deed Book 76. Page 118. 1999 Addendum Book 99. Page 314. Section B, Invalidity of Rule 9. Unrecorded Rule 9b. Certificate confirming no amendments. Affidavit confirming no vote. Section C, Kickback Scheme. Registry for Crestline Infrastructure, LC. Ledger showing $22,000 in transfers. Section, Unlawful Enforcement. Video capturing Officer Vance. Photos of orange paint. Incident report classifying causeway as private. Section E, Bond Violations. Covenant triggering $500,000 clawback. Legal analysis of statutes. I printed 3 copies of the master binder, bound in black vinyl, and stamped the covers. On Thursday morning, I met my sister Martha's recommended real estate attorney in Portland, a sharp property litigator named Sarah Jenkins. Sarah spent 40 minutes reading my master binder in silence. "Mr. Crawford," Sarah said, "Brenda Vance haven't just lost her case. She has walked her entire HOA directly into a $500,000 municipal financial trap, and her brother is facing federal prison." Thursday evening arrived at the Pine Creek Community Clubhouse. By 6:45 p.m., all 140 households were present in the packed hall. Seated behind the table sat Brenda Vance in a black suit, alongside her brother Officer Kevin Vance in full uniform, Attorney Harold Blake, and 3 uneasy board members. I arrived at 6:55 p.m. in my gray suit with Martha, Sarah Jenkins, Arthur Pendleton, and 2 state police internal affairs investigators. Brenda tapped her microphone, silencing the room. "Ranatby, good evening. Well, neighbors, we must vote on Item 1. Emergency Legal Assessment Approval regarding Parcel 402. Mr. Blake spoke, claiming the $750 assessment was vital to fund legal action in circuit court. The homeowner shouted, "Why should we pay $750 for a gate dispute?" Brenda smiled triumphantly and raised her wooden gavel. "If there is no further discussion, we will proceed directly to the vote." "Madam President," a quiet voice interrupted, I stood up, picking up my master exhibit binder. Under Section 6, I said, affected parties have the statutory right to present evidence before a vote. Brenda's gavel hovered above the block. Mr. Crawford, you will have 2 minutes during open public comment. Sarah Jenkins stood up. Madam President, denying Mr. Crawford his right to present public records before voting on a $105,000 assessment constitutes a procedural violation. The room went dead silent. Harold Blake whispered in Brenda's ear. Brenda lowered her gavel. Mr. Crawford, you have 10 minutes. I walked up to the stage, connected my laptop to the projector, and opened my presentation. A bright white beam cast a crisp 10-foot image onto the projection screen. Russ, good evening. Ramley, neighbors, I said. My name is Jack Crawford. My family has owned tax parcel 402 at Cedar Lake for 47 years. Before you vote on taking $750 out of your bank accounts, I want to show you what those legal fees are buying. I pressed the remote clicker. The screen lit up with a certified copy of the 1976 deed for tax parcel 402. 23 years before Pine Creek Estates was built, my father purchased tax parcel 402 as an independent parcel. I clicked to the next slide, displaying the 1999 exclusionary addendum recorded in Book 99, page 314. Page 14 states that parcel 402, its causeway, Y gate, and boat launch are excluded from HOA covenants. Gasps echoed through the hall. In short, I said, the Pine Creek HOA has zero legal jurisdiction over my causeway or boat ramp. Brenda slammed her hand onto the table. Rule 9 was passed unanimously in June to supersede all prior exemptions. Let's examine how Rule 9 came to exist, I said calmly. I clicked the remote, displaying a Clackamas County Clerk certificate. Unders 9459. Amendments altering property rights must be approved by 75% of owners. This document certifies Rule 9B was never recorded. Dale Miller stood up. Rule 9B was never recorded? Lee, it gets worse. Dale, I said. I clicked the remote, projecting Arthur Pendleton's sworn affidavit. Arthur Pendleton certifies that no board meeting was called and no vote occurred. Rule 9B was drafted by Brenda Vance without a vote. Brenda's face turned completely white. And now, Eli continued, let me show you why a municipal police officer arrived at my gate at 6:15 a.m. last Tuesday, wearing full uniform and threatening me with arrest. I clicked the remote, playing the 1080p trail camera video. The audience watched as Brenda Vance stood beside my gate while her brother Officer Kevin Vance pulled out his handcuffs, rested his hand on his sidearm, and ordered a worker to cut my 5-pound brass padlock. They listened as Officer Vance shouted, "Hand over the master keys to this ranch gate right now, or I'm placing you under arrest for criminal obstruction." I paused the video with Officer Vance's face and police badge frozen on the screen. When Brenda instructed her brother to cut my lock, she activated Section 6 of the 1999 Indemnity Bond Covenant. I highlighted Section 6 in yellow. Under Section 6, attempting to claim Parcel 402 revokes fire access. It triggers a $500,000 bond clawback against your reserve fund and condemns your communal dock. The board member stood up while shouting into his microphone, $500,000. You triggered a $500,000 bond clawback against our reserve fund without telling the board? Brenda grabbed her microphone, her voice cracking I have executive authority. There was no emergency. Brenda, I said. My causeway was closed for 47 years. But there was one thing that was urgent. Your private commercial pontoon business. I clicked to the Secretary of State filing for Crestline Infrastructure LC. When November 2021, Brenda Vance incorporated Crestline Infrastructure LC and transferred $22,000 in HOA funds to her private business using my causeway. The room exploded into absolute fury. Homeowners leapt to their feet, demanding Brenda's immediate resignation. Well, Dale Miller yelled, $22,000 of our dues for a private boat business? Brenda turned frantically to Harold Blake. Harold, do something. Harold Blake stood up. He slowly closed his leather briefcase, clicked the brass latches shut, and picked up his coat. Mrs. Vance, Blake said. He represented that Rule 9 was legally enacted and concealed a corporate self-dealing scheme. Sterling Associates withdraws as counsel effective immediately. Harold Blake walked down the center aisle and exited the clubhouse, leaving Brenda Vance standing completely alone behind the table. At that exact moment, the two plainclothes state police internal affairs investigators stepped onto the stage directly beside Officer Kevin Vance. Officer Vance, the investigator, announced, "You are placed on immediate administrative suspension for official misconduct and color of law violations under 18 U.S.C. Section 242. Surrender your badge and weapon right now." Officer Vance surrendered his badge and sidearm and was escorted out, leaving Brenda Vance completely alone behind the board table. With the attorney gone and Officer Vance relieved of duty, Vice President Dave Miller took control of the meeting. Neighbors bowed, "Sit down." As Vice President, Dave declared, "I entertain immediate floor motions. Do I hear a motion regarding the proposed $750 special assessment?" Dale Miller stood up immediately. "I move that the $750 special assessment be rejected permanently, and all legal bills charged directly to Brenda Vance's personal account." Seconded, shouted 50 voices across the hall. "All those in favor?" Dave called out. 140 hands shot into the air. The motion passes unanimously. 140-0. Dave recorded. "Next, Dave continued. I call for a motion regarding a vote of no confidence and immediate removal of Brenda Vance as board president." Arthur Pendleton stood up. "I move Brenda Vance be removed from the board immediately. Her bank access revoked tonight, and a forensic audit initiated." Sec ended. Shouted the entire room. "All those in favor of immediate removal?" Dave called out. Mise again. 140 hands went up. Not a single person voted no. The motion passes 140-0. Dave announced, while striking the gavel. Brenda Vance is removed from office immediately. The hall erupted in applause. Brenda Vance grabbed her handbag and ran down the exit stairs into the dark parking lot outside. Dave Miller turned to face me. "Jack," Dave said, "on behalf of this entire community, I apologize. Your family built this causeway when we let a corporate bully harass you on your own land because we didn't check the paperwork. Thank you for bringing the truth to light." I gave Dave a quiet nod. "Thank you, Dave," I said. "Just make sure the orange spray paint gets washed off my boat ramp." The fallout unfolded over the next 90 days. First came the expungement of all actions against Parcel 402. On Monday, the new HOA board met with an attorney. The board passed Resolution 2023-03, executing 4 actions. The expungement of all fines against Parcel 402. The recording of a deed clarification notice under Book 76, page 118. Revocation of Rule 9B. Reimbursement of $4,200 in legal expenses. Second came property cleanup. On Tuesday, contractors pressure washed the orange paint from my boat ramp, installed a new brass master lock on my gate, and returned the key with a letter of apology. Third came accountability. Arthur Pendleton audited 3 years of HOA accounts, revealing Brenda misallocated $14,800 of HOA funds for private legal consults and surveillance equipment. Brenda Vance signed a settlement agreement requiring $36,800 in restitution and $7,000 in audit penalties. Officer Kevin Vance received a 60-day suspension and a letter of reprimand for color of law violations. By 60 days after the meeting, a for sale sign appeared at Lot 1. Brenda Vance could no longer walk down Pine Creek Way without neighbors turning away. Her authority was gone, her reputation destroyed, her company dissolved, and her kickbacks clawed back. By mid-December, the moving van loaded her furniture and drove away. Two weeks later, a quiet young family bought the waterfront home. Pine Creek Estates transformed under Arthur Pendleton as treasurer, with dues reduced by 20%. The dock was dredged, while streetlights upgraded, and the newsletter returned to announcing barbecues and fishing derbies. Nobody ever again walked down a driveway with a clipboard. At the end of the causeway hung my father's gate. The brass lock glinted in the winter sun. The causeway was secure. On a Saturday morning in January, I stood on my porch with coffee. I walked down to my gate and touched the cool iron rail. I remembered what my father told me 47 years ago. The man's boundary isn't defined by what his neighbors think he owns. It's defined by what's stamped into the county record book. As long as your deed is clean and your posts are plumb, nobody on God's green earth can tell you where your property ends. My father had been right. The boundary lines had been tested, the paper trail audited, and the truth had stood its ground. Later that afternoon, my neighbor Dale Miller walked down the causeway holding 2 fishing rods. Afternoon. "Why, Jack," Dale said, smiling. "Got time to show me where the deep trout holes are near the island?" "Always got time for a neighbor, Dale," I said. I unlocked the heavy brass master lock, swung the iron gate open, and we spent the afternoon fishing on Cedar Lake. We ranched at 5 o'clock. The evening sun set behind the timber ridge, casting golden light across Cedar Lake. The gate stood firm. There were no patrol cars idling on the road, no aerosol paint cans, and no corporate bullies with clipboards. There was only deep, quiet peace, while clear paper, in a proud home built on square footings and recorded county deeds. When an arrogant manager uses fake authority or a police badge to claim your property, why, you don't need to shout. You only need to know your boundary. Gather certified records, and stand your ground. Because when an arrogant bully crosses your private property line without the law behind them, the truth always fights back with quiet, unyielding power. Do you think the 60-day unpaid suspension and letter of reprimand was enough punishment for Officer Kevin Vance? Or should he have been completely fired from the police force? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I read every single response. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories where the truth stands its ground. Thanks for watching.